turn it on.
Got it to the end.
Yeah. Don't have someone to turn it on for you in LA, Seth.
It's not the Sound Guild Awards.
This is not an award.
It's not?
No.
I thought I won something.
We don't win things. We get the yucks.
Oh, this is so exciting to be interviewed by Andy Samberg. The dream.
That's why you got in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's it feel?
I will say, based on my assessment of you when I first met you, I never thought we'd be at this place.
Because you thought that I would be
The president.
Different thought. Thanks for coming, everyone, and honoring Seth. Maniac. Lord. You know what? We're just going to dive right in.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's always been your style as an interviewer.
For sure. As I was coming up on the junior interviewer circuit.
Baby Cronkite, that's what they call
Baby
you.
Cronkite. Baby Kronk. What makes a guy like you tick? That's what's written here. Okay.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Great.
Deep dive. Everyone should know we're very good friends.
Yes, we are.
We've known each other a long time. You were at SNL when I was hired. We still see each other a lot. We text often. You were in my wedding.
I was.
We now both have kids. You have 2, I have 1. And so my first question is, now that you're a parent, and we're both parents, and you see things a little differently maybe, do you now see that your kids are very cute, and therefore, because of that, can you, once and for all, in front of everyone here, admit that your dog is an ugly rat?
I think if my dog was here, she would attest she's getting a lot less attention.
It's a she? All right, well, I'll come back to that one. How does a closer look work? I mean, it's a great segment. I watch it every morning on YouTube.
Thank you.
I do genuinely get a lot of my news now from a closer look.
Thank you.
I think you guys do a great job. It's very thorough and also very funny. I especially like it when you go into like silly voices and use your hands a lot.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
But I think most people would disagree. But I like it.
Well, you are my friend who is most like a Muppet, so...
It speaks to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yes, you do it 3 times a week. It's a huge segment. There's a lot that goes into it. Is doing it so often and knowing that it's now something that's expected of you, is that a burden? Is it exciting? What goes into making it? Just talk about it a little bit.
It is exciting to know that we do it 3 times a week, in that we know we're not going into each week being like, oh my God, what are we going to do on Monday? We instead think, what is a closer look going to be about Monday? And so that's kind of a relief, because then you just have to figure out how to execute that, as opposed to, the worst part about SNL, I think, wasn't, oh, we have to write this sketch. It was, what sketch are we going to write? Right. So that part's done. We have this really great writer, Sal Gentile, who has a background in cable news, and he writes the first draft. And because he's in cable news, he just has a really good process of having a beginning, middle, and end, and kind of putting together 10 minutes of news. The only tricky thing for us has been that these days, news, what you think is the most important thing at noon on Monday, is like 100 years old by 4 on Monday. Like, just things happen and you're like, oh, nobody wants to hear about the Iran deal anymore. Like, Donald Trump punched a horse.
I say this with sympathy. There are times when I don't stay up late enough to catch the show, and I do watch it the next morning, and I suffer exactly what you're talking about, where I'm like, oh right, that happened.
Yeah.
And it was yesterday afternoon.
Well, we tape at 6:30 and the show airs at 12:30, so we do have, like, there's like 6 hours that could really fuck us because it's too late to do anything.
Right.
Like, if it happens at 5, you can at least say in the top of a closer look, we heard about the horse. And punching.
Right. Did that happen?
No, but it's gonna.
It's
yeah.
gonna. Yeah. Looked at him wrong.
So yeah, that is. But so like I remember stuff happened like when Michael. This feels like a million years ago when Michael Flynn got fired. It happened at like 9 o'clock at night, and then you realize, oh, they're gonna think it's a repeat. Like
right.
They're gonna be like, why is this talk show not talking about this giant piece of news?
Have you considered quickly jotting down like a paragraph about it and then like doing a selfie video in bed and just sending it to the network?
And just insert here?
Yeah. Just like cut it in right at the end.
Oh, and also, hang on, babe.
What was I said hang on, babe, to my wife. What was she wanting me to be doing?
Going to sleep.
Oh, I see. That I can stress that that's accurate.
Yes. I know you guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
2 babies in, there's a lot of sleep.
Now, you are famous for saying it's easy to juggle work and family.
You know what?
We can all agree. It's easy, right?
Yeah, oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't have to talk about that anymore. Actually, this next question you already answered.
Okay.
You're 2 steps ahead, Myers. Okay. Well, I've seen a lot written about your show about how you're very willing to share the desk with your writers, which I think is very cool. But it did lead me to my next question, which is, why didn't you let me do all my updates at SNL?
Is a really fair question.
Was it really Lauren, or was it you?
Can we... First of all, Andy feels like a happy-go-lucky guy. I think that is an image that you presented to the world.
Muppet Styles, yeah.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Muppet Styles.
Muppet Styles.
Yeah.
Andy never took it well. When we had to tell you between Dress and Air we weren't doing your update feature, you did not take it well.
Well, in fairness, how did I take it the first 100 times? And then how did it sort of dovetail after that into a sour place?
But do you remember some features? This is a room full of people who will judge you fairly.
Yeah.
Pitch a feature or 2 that got cut.
All right. Seth's big beef with my stuff generally is that it is from like the 80s or the 90s. And we're doing like a weekly topical show at SNL. So like I'd be like, it's Beetlejuice on Meet the Press. What? No. Why now?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it got to the point where he said that to me so many times that me and my buddy Rob Klein, who's the writer there as well, wrote a character named Topical Frank. I was like, look, he can't say no, it has topical in the name. But then all of his references were super old. Like, oh man, I haven't seen a disaster like that since the Great Train Robbery. Topical! He's like, no, it's not topical.
All right. I want to point out here's an idea, like, he's like, I was a gatekeeper that would let nary a thing pass.
Right.
Liam, the kid who just woke up, was on television.
Written by Colin Jost.
So this was all the extent of the Weekend Update character.
I didn't even want to do that one.
Andy was on TV playing Liam, the kid who just woke up. Basically, you came out and were just a kid who had just woke up.
In a hoodie.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, what's going on?
And I'd be like, you were here to tell us about the debt ceiling.
Like, what's that?
Yeah. So
I guess it was good. It was great.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, Topical Frank, you blew it. A real one. I love the segment you do on the show, Jokes Seth Can't Tell, with Amber and Jenny.
Yep.
I would like, by all means, anything you guys want to clap for, slang it.
Yeah, they were. I think you could tell on Topical Frank they wanted to go for it.
Well, they might have if you'd let it fucking air. Fascist. You know you play all nicey political now. Man of the people. But when it came to Topical Frank, the Fuhrer. But nothing else, really. It was really just Topical Frank. Jokes that Seth can't tell.
Yeah.
I love the premise. I love those ladies. They're so funny. How did it first come to be? How much are they involved in writing it, and vice versa? And the stats and all that?
I would just say this is one of the great arguments and reasons for having a diverse writing staff. I would never have come up with jokes that can't tell. It was that Jenny, who is gay and Hispanic, realized that in writing jokes for me, she would just every now and then write jokes that, as a straight white guy, I could never say. And Amber, a black woman, was having the same issue. So they said we should do a piece where we come on and tell the jokes we wrote for Seth that he won't tell. And I've always said, I could never have come up with it, but I will give myself credit. The minute I heard it, I was like, oh, yes, please. And it's really fun because they collect jokes, they write jokes, and then they also collect jokes from the rest of the staff. And I think the rest of the staff, there's something really kind of it feels like naughty to write jokes that they know can only be saved by the charm of these two really talented performers.
Right. Does anyone in your writer's room ever pitch one for it that shouldn't, and everyone's like, come on, man?
Yeah. There are a couple. Well, the funny one is more often than not, Amber there'll be one, and I'm like, Amber, no, and she's like, that's my favorite one. Right. And I'm like, let me tell you something. On behalf of white people, there are things that we're not ready to hear. I invite you to say everything you want to say, but this will make people break in half.
Right. Has that ever happened? Did she ever do one where it chilled the audience?
Yeah, but Amber's so charming.
Right.
That she then smiles it away.
Mm-hmm.
But that she makes that choice. It's always up to her. And by the way, there's never been one where I'm like, you absolutely can't say that, because if she wants to weather it, we're always like, God bless, go for it.
Right. I'm starting to realize now that Topical Frank was too similar to you. And then the angle should have been something you could never do, like Dewey Schnauzerson or something. Because you can't say that.
That's true.
Even though everyone thinks you're Jewish, in the Hasidic quarter in Brooklyn, you're not. Yeah. It's the electronics store in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, on 34th Street.
Yeah. I love that story.
It's with B&H,
B&H.
right? I'm not Jewish, but all Jewish people think I'm Jewish. And I was at the electronics store at B&H, and one of the Hasidic Jews who works there was helping me. And he was like, I think somebody else noticed me and said something. He goes, oh, how do they know who you are? And I'm like, oh, I'm on television. He's like, oh, what program? And I was like, oh, I'm on Saturday Night Live. He's like, oh, what channel is that on? On NBC. He's like, what number is that? I'm like, I think it's 4. I don't know. And he was like, and what's your name? And I was like, Seth Meyers. And he went, congratulations!
I approve. The voice was a little dicey, but...
Well, you know what they say, the Fuhrer!
It'd be amazing if there was footage of Hitler doing that voice. Just then they were like... Hitler has a tight 15.
Yeah.
Had. Oh, be in Argentina. On here. Another thing I love about the show, the monologue.
Oh, thank you.
It's at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
Chock full of jokes.
Yep.
Give me a little insight. Is that the whole staff pitches on it? Is that something you are still writing for a lot?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was never a great joke writer at Update either. That wasn't... No, I would work on features, and I wrote a lot of sketches on the show, but actual, I'd work on reelies, but the actual, solitary jokes, that more often than not was our friend Alex Bays, who's the head writer for our show, who used to run Update, and often would have to give you the bad news about stuff like Topical Frank.
Yeah, Bays, who's 6'10".
Yeah.
And he'd be like, Hey, buddy. Had to cut Topical Frank again. We really liked it, but Lauren just wanted it to be more political this week. It just felt like the Great Train Robbery thing. Fuck you, man. Maybe like, well, I'll see around and slap me in the face with this dick. That part I actually dug. That was like the best part of getting cut from Update. Anyways, everyone paid their dues? I'm supposed to ask that. Ever got them in? Okay.
Yeah. So we do a monologue.
Right, a monologue.
But it's like Update, where you can't believe we have like 7 people who write 200 jokes over the course combined over the course of the day, and we basically do 10 to 12 a night. But it's amazing. As for jokes, we found you just have to write so many to find good ones. Also, I think when there's so many other shows doing monologues, like you just have to. Sometimes you read one and you're like, oh, that's really good, but I bet someone else is gonna do it. Like it just feels, and it's not a bad joke. It just feels like it might be in line with what other people are doing. So you just look for ones that are like super unique, which is hard to come up with 10 or 12 super unique jokes a day.
Absolutely. And I will say, and it's another reason why I love Closer Look so much, is for me, one of the marks of that a late night show host has found their groove is you're like, you could write a great joke for them, but a different joke will be better for them because it's more their joke.
Yes.
Which is a thing that takes a little bit of time to find, I think.
Absolutely, and not very, other than Bays and Shoemaker, who's a friend from SNL, who's our producer, like nobody had worked with me before. And so even though I think people obviously see me do Update, like you learn, a year or 2 years of me reading jokes every day and commenting on what I like and don't like, then they find it.
Right.
Yeah. And the other nice thing about when you're in the 4th or 5th year of a talk show is also like when jokes bomb, that's also fine.
Right.
Because people are kind of there. I feel like they're watching because they want to spend time with you at 12:30 at night, and they're like, you don't all have to be good.
Right. Yeah. It's like hanging out with your friends. They have a couple of weird ones in there.
Yeah. And every now and then it's been fun. Like I've realized it's fun to say before a joke is terrible or it's like a terrible pun. Like to put a big old preamble on it and be like, this is the smartest joke of the night that I was
like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna love this.
Yeah. And then you just let people in and they just enjoy it more, I think.
Do you ever, because you pre-tape a little bit, do you ever cut things out of the show before it gets to air if it bombs really hard?
If we go, we try to do our show to time. Mm-hmm. I think that's from coming from SNL, where time is at such a premium. Yeah. Like instead of going long and editing interviews, we really try to go to time. But every now and then, if I can't get out of an interview in time, so it goes 30 seconds or 40 seconds long, we can take out a joke or two that did the worst.
Got it.
Yeah, we tend not to take them out because they don't work.
Got it.
Yeah.
And similar to SNL, do you do a rehearsal of the monologue or anything else in the show?
We round up like 40 people from the building, like people that are like at the NBC Experience store.
So like tourists in the store.
Tourists.
Got it. Yeah, not employees.
Yeah, no. If you go at like 4:30, you can just take shit because all the employees are up in mine. Yeah, fully, like we take everybody, cashiers, security.
Look at one of those dick-in-a-box bobbleheads that no one keeps asking me for.
So yeah, we round up like 40 people, and then I just read jokes off paper. But I do that, and I do a closer look for them because we write a closer look even longer than it ends up being.
Got it.
But I've learned to ask that audience where they're from. I say, is anybody from out of the country?
Right.
Because you realize it's usually half.
Right.
Because the people who come to New York and want to go to an office building tend to be German.
Your core audience.
My core audience. But no, we did, I learned to ask them. It's taking such a weird
turn. Do you have German blood?
No, so Andy and I both did Skip Gates's Finding Your Roots. I did it, finally.
Oh, nice. Well, we can't talk about it until it airs, though.
No,
right?
we can't.
Oh.
But you said, do you have German blood? And then
yeah.
I said I was on Finding Your Roots, and now everybody can just guess.
I mean, looking into your cold blue eyes. Seems pretty clear. All right, so dress rehearsal.
Yeah,
ish.
so that we
But you read it off a pad like, you know, like a hipster comic in the 90s.
pretty much.
Like, I don't care about these. I like smoking a cigarette.
I just smoke a cigarette and I'm like, "Grr." I sit like half on a stool. But it's good. We did realize because we would do it before. When we started it, I didn't ask who's from out of the country, and I learned I had to do that because sometimes like good jokes would bomb. And then after the audience left, people would be like, "Oh, they were all from Lithuania."
Gotcha. And at that point, it's just good experience to have said it once.
Yeah, Sam. And again, even if it's a terrible audience, like you know the good one from the bad one, because like if the baseline is like 2 people laughing,
Right.
that's still better than 0.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like when I used to do like open mics and bringer shows and stuff for stand-up, and there's 17 people there. If you get 3 laughs, you're like, that one was pretty good.
Yeah. You get in a room with like 1,700 people, that's a real guffaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up guffaw. Mark it down in my joke book as guffaw. Do you have a favorite type of guest on the show at this point? Is it like, because you've been working in comedy for a while, so you have a lot of friends who come on, but then there's also, say, people from the world of music or sports or politics. At this point, you do so much material about politics. Is it really exciting for you in that way when people from the political world come on, or is it still most fun to just like see people you know are funny?
I think politicians, I thought were going to be really an important part of our show because I wanted to talk about politics. And I realized the least interesting way to talk about politics on television is to a politician.
Because they can't say anything.
They can't say anything. And it's worse than that. They have come up with the perfect thing to say. They just don't realize how uninteresting it is to hear. Like it's very poll tested, and you feel like they've rehearsed exactly how they're going to say it and when they're going to put their hand on your desk and when they're going to turn to the audience. And so it's they all treat it like they might as well be on Meet the Press. They don't take advantage of it being a late night show.
Right.
So for me, comedians are always the best. Authors, fiction authors are really fun. They're just by nature storytellers, and they are, the weird thing is there's a kind of actor who gets really nervous on talk shows because they're not used to like telling personal stories.
Right.
And authors aren't like that. They're really great at telling stories. And then the other fun thing is the longer you have a show, the more you realize like, these people that I didn't know before, now I really know them as talk show guests. I know how much fun they are and how little they care about like sticking to the script. Like Greta Gerwig is a great talk show guest. Like Joel Edgerton, who I knew as like this like very menacing actor in action films, is like the most fun guy to have on a talk show. So that's the fun thing about the longer you do it.
Got it. He's somebody you would say was surprisingly charming or funny.
Yeah, great. He's just like a very like affable Australian guy. But if the first time you saw him was like Animal Kingdom, you're like, good.
Right. You still like the movie In Bruges?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just talk about it a lot. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
I liked it.
Bruges.
I liked it fun.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Can you remember the only movie that we never did this, but there was a night at SNL where a bunch of us stayed on a Wednesday night and we watched a movie in the table read room.
At SNL?
Yeah. We like got pizza and we watched a crazy movie. And it was super fun and I think about it all the time.
I'm ashamed to say I don't remember what the movie was.
Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. God damn, do I remember.
Can we talk about my favorite shared moment with you in the history of SNL?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, when Cage came.
Yeah.
And I did a segment on Update that Seth let me do because there was a celebrity in it at the time. So he couldn't cut it. That was my last tactic that worked. It's like, yeah, I mean, we could, but Jude Law's here. We could cut it. But yeah, so I did it as Nick Cage, and I would interview people about the craft.
And it wasn't like, it wasn't the like gentlest portrayal of Nick Cage.
It was not even remotely like Nick Cage.
Yeah.
It was just a lunatic person.
Yeah.
that we called Nick Cage, and Nick Cage, to his enormous credit, recognized that and thought that was funny, and came on SNL and did it with me, and we did it as twin Nick Cages.
Yeah.
And it was definitely one of the high points of my life.
It was amazing, but we had to go into his dressing room
Pre-show.
with the script.
Yeah.
There was no sense that he had seen it.
We definitely had sent it. He definitely had not looked at it.
Yeah. So now, just picture, you come into the room. Nick Cage, also taller than you think.
Yeah, he's a strapping guy.
Yeah, he's a big, strapping guy. And it was the opposite of this. Hey, Seth, Andy, great to see you. It was not that.
Right. Terrible impression, by the way. Come on.
It was like, him like very quiet.
Studied.
Yeah. But like really like ready to act.
Yes.
And we kind of read, and again, it's this thing of like, oh, he doesn't know what this is, he hasn't read it, and like this is like a takedown to some degree.
Well, but we had included in the script him explaining that this was not a good impression of him.
Right, that's true.
That it was basically we were admitting to him and also allowing him to say on air that it was unfair.
We read it with him,
yeah.
And it was like amazing, because Nick Cage is still, for my money, one of the most interesting people in the world to watch.
Magnetic. He's like, oh.
Genuinely, yes. Like genuinely, I was enraptured.
Yes.
And then it finished, and he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And we walked out, and we skipped down the hallway. Like,
we skipped.
We were so excited.
Like, he's gonna do it.
And then on air, he at the end, he like slapped the table.
He leaned in so hard. And the last line for him was, we're gonna have a three-way with the Declaration of Independence. It was like flames shot off his head. It was so
He
fucking
slapped
dope.
the desk in a way that you could hear me go like,
everything for this moment. He knew it. He knew when to pounce.
Yeah. And that was even the more amazing thing. And I should say, Port of Call, New Orleans is an incredible film. It's Werner Herzog.
More fisheye lens shots of an iguana per capita than anything ever in the history. More than like a documentary about iguanas.
Yeah, planet Earth, nowhere near that many iguanas.
It was like Terry Gilliam took over planet Earth and did just iguana shots.
Yeah. But yeah, we watched that movie together. And again, that's the great thing about SNL, the crazy past, the arc history takes, which is one night we're just watching a crazy Nick Cage movie. Cuts like 5 years later, I'm sitting at the update desk with you and the real Nick Cage.
Yes.
And he's slapping the desk and making me like gasp.
Yeah. Making you shudder, really.
Yeah, I shudder.
Yeah. I came to SNL 4 years after you.
Yeah.
I left 2 years before you.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I'm gonna play. I'm looking at this as a segue. What's up with that?
What's up with that? What up with that?
Kenan Thompson.
We love the Kenan.
Because I would like to point out that I was at yeah, give it up for Kenan.
It's great.
Also, if you're an Emmy voter, let's get Kenan nominated for an Emmy this year.
Yes,
let's do it. But Kenan, I was 12 and a half years when I left, and I was a number 2 all time. But Kenan was behind me. Kenan's now number 1. Longest
past Daryl?
He did, yeah.
Longest cast member.
I was very, very sad when you left SNL.
As was I.
I did not like. Also, one thing was I've made me feel old because you had come after me and then left before me.
Right.
And so then I was like a dude that was like, I've been in high school for 14 years. I used to tutor that kid. That was my doctor.
That shit is so real. In your defense,
yeah,
you had 2 full lifetimes there that were different.
Yes.
You had a full stint as a cast member, and then you transitioned to being head writer and update anchor, which is a whole other job.
Different job.
Yes.
A job I liked more, so I didn't long for the first job.
Yeah.
And it was for me, I think one of the reasons, the first 5 years, like a lot of us, I was just terrified. And you had that great thing where, and I'm not saying it made the job any easier, but you came in with 2 of your best buds.
Yes.
Like I felt very alone when I started, and so that it was really nice when like your group, which was a great, not just the Lonely Island guys, but everybody else who started that year. The show got for me, it was a really fun place to work until.
I also enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you stayed too long. All right, what's next? No, I'm kidding. What character from before you got Update do people say to you the most? Is it the Needlers? Is it?
Oh, great.
Is it? You burnt?
Wait, does people say you burnt like before I got what?
Wait, do you get people ever being like, that character you did? And then they do the catchphrase? Zingers, yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Dave Zinger?
Yeah.
No, that never comes up.
Did you write the one with Christopher Walken, the prank show?
I did, yeah.
That is fucking gold.
That's a
Has
really...
anyone of you seen that?
Pranksters is
I pranked him to death with a tie around. That's a good sketch.
Pranksters, like, now that you've set me up, Pranksters was a prank show, like on Nickelodeon, and I was the host, and the first guest was Chris Kattan, and he was a kid, and the show was like you showed pranks you did, and his prank was he put a rubber spider in his mom's desk drawer, and then he filmed it, and she had a freak out. And then that was the first guest, and then the next guest was adult Christopher Walken. And his prank was that his boss kept taking his parking spot, and so we had like a parking security cam of a parking lot, and he just came out from the corner and beat Chris Parnell to death.
But he kept using the jargon from the like kids show, so like in the beginning he's like, this guy's a real stiffly Stifferson. And then hearing Walken, who can make anything funny because his voice is so awesome. You're like, he was a real stiffly Stifferson.
Zowie!
Do you know most of the other late night hosts, and are you friendly with them? And do you guys like watch each other's show? Do you ever like get together and talk? Like, give me some dirt.
No, but like I would say like once a year I have a nice interaction with each of them.
Yeah.
Colbert and I both went to Northwestern, and they asked us to film something, so I went over to his studio to shoot it, which was great. To get to hang out with him just for a little bit.
Was that like a Draw Straws whose studio? Or you
I
just
offered to
earlier
go to
in the day.
his. Yeah,
good call.
He's earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And then. Jimmy and I have done each other's shows this year, which is really nice.
Yes.
You can catch up that way.
Yes.
I see, every now and then in New York, you just run into people at like charity events and stuff.
Right.
John Oliver was very nice and got my son a soccer jersey of the team I like, which he says is a shit team.
Which team?
West Ham.
Oh yeah, West Ham's bad.
Yeah.
They're bad. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that answer.
Yeah.
Do people ever come up to you and think you're a different late night host?
No. But
do you get somebody?
No.
Anyway?
Well, I was just another one of my favorite because not only was I in Andy's wedding, I didn't have.
He wasn't the bride.
You
were a groomsman. You didn't specify what you were in my wedding.
I basically used your bachelor party.
What's up? What'd you say? Because we said something at the same time, and I didn't hear what you said. And I don't know if they're laughing at my thing or your thing.
I think it's yours.
I think it's yours. Okay. Because yours was just nice, and I just took a shit on it. Great.
You get called. There was an SNL name you got called all the time, which was Adam Sandler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just straight up Adam Sandler.
Just straight up people would say Adam Sandler.
I also get Adam Samberg a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went to the ESPYs one
which
year.
like 50 people just realized isn't my name. Right?
Yeah. Like it would be great if
I gotta go take some tweets down.
50 people like get up and angrily leave. I told you that wasn't Billy Madison. Wasting my time listening to that asshole. There goes my Q&A.
Correct.
But we went to the ESPYs one year, and I've been with you so many times when people have called you Adam Samberg.
Yes.
And we were in the car, and you said, how long until someone calls me Adam Samberg? And I said, I'm going to say the third person.
Right.
And we got out, and there was a photographer, and literally the first person was like, Adam Samberg, Adam Samberg! And you're like, oh, fuck. And then he was like, and then he looks at me and he goes, Bill Hader! And I was like, oh!
Worse! Because it's more different of a name!
Yeah. It's a lack of not knowing your face!
God, that was satisfying. The ESPYs, that's why you go. I'm not checking my phone, guys. I have more questions on you. Oh, yeah. Okay. You do a show in New York.
Yeah.
And I know it's a thing in New York for tourists to be like, let's catch a TV show and go see the audience. Do you ever, your show is so politically charged now, do you ever have the experience where there's an audience member that's kind of like wandered in and maybe has very different views and start being like, fuck this? You know?
No, I will say that the first year of my show, I do feel like more of our audience was like, let's go see a talk show.
Right.
Now, I feel like because we've been on the air a long time, I think people are like, let's go see this talk show.
Got it.
So we don't have that. I do a Q&A like before the last act of our show, when like they're setting up the band. And it was very strange because how rarely it happened. But like I was doing a Q&A and this woman in the back was like, do you make fun of Donald Trump this much every night? And I was like, oh yeah, I do.
Quite literally, yes.
Yeah. And she was like, well, I don't care for it. And I'm like, I gotta just feel like this is a little on you. I don't.
She read on Facebook that you love Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to impugn your politics. Like you have every right to them. But like I feel like like ultimately, like if I wandered into like a Trump rally, I'd be like, enough with the wall.
By the way, at this point, don't wander into a Trump rally.
Yeah. I don't think it'd go well.
No, I'd like to see you again. We'll watch his show. We know what's going on. Okay. I reached out to a few of our friends and asked them if they had questions for you.
Oh, great.
The first is from Fred Armisen.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not here. But I'll tell him you guys clapped. He'll be happy. He cares. He definitely cares. So I texted him, do you have any questions for Seth? He said, okay. I'm just reading this verbatim. Okay, ask him, period. What was that place we ate at, like 2009? Then another text. Or maybe 2008. Another text. It was me and him for dinner with a bunch of buddies. I wrote back, thanks, I will read that verbatim. Then a few minutes later, oh wait, I might have a better one. Seth, period. Who was that buddy of yours you were telling me about? I'm going to assume there's no answer.
Yeah,
I think he maybe was cracking wise.
Yeah.
The other person that I texted and asked was our good friend Will Forte.
Yeah.
I texted him early this morning. He wrote me back at 8:36 a.m. I'll see if I can cook up a few. What's my cutoff point? I'm not sure if anyone knows about Forte's reputation, but he goes deep dive into the tunnel when he writes anything. Like I had to stop working with him at SNL because I would love the sketches we write, but we go over one sentence for like 5 hours. Like he gets in the loop.
You thought you were asking him a fun thing, and you forgot that you were basically ruining his day.
I completely I stole 14 hours from him.
Yeah.
That he will never get back. So then, didn't hear back from him all day. I was driving here, and I was like, hey man, checking in. Got anything? No press. Wrote back like a frenzy of text like, I've been thinking about it, I haven't done anything yet, give me 1 second. Then he writes back, and you'll appreciate this the most. Have been brainstorming with Solomon, who is John Solomon, who's our other friend, who's a writer with him on his show, who he makes write everything with him. So poor John Solomon is probably having a nice day. And then poor Dave was like, Andy needs questions for Seth!
So you ruined 2 days.
I completely fucked Solomon over. And by the way, definitely should have known I was doing that.
Yeah.
Then, finally, I mean, all of my first thoughts are questions about his penis. I've just always been curious. Then nothing. Then I get here, I'm like, can you be more specific? Then 3 things came in, numbered. 1, who is your favorite Spice Girl and why? Answer should be minimum of 5 minutes. 2, just generally describe your nipples. Answer should be minimum 45 seconds. 3, then instruction. After his answer, 3, expound for 30 more seconds. So, you want to answer any of those?
No, I'm good.
I think that's it for my questions. We're to open things up to the audience, yes? What if I was like, no? Yes, you
I'm
young
Adam,
man.
and I'm 12, and
What's your name, sir?
I'm Adam, you
Okay.
know, Ashkenazi Jewish, let's just get out of
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So my question is, like, what do you think of this joke? So Monica Lewinsky won't be, I know, 90s, we get along.
Yeah. Hit us with the Lewinsky, it's hot, it's fresh.
She, if you know, you and Hillary have been friends for years, right? If she were to run again, do you think Monica Lewinsky would vote for her? I mean, the last Clinton presidency definitely did not leave a good taste in her mouth. I mean, like, I need to know your deep, intimate thoughts on this. This is a very monumental question.
Maybe Amber can tell.
Oh, and
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a big fan of you, and whoever does your hair, I need to contact.
Thank you. It has been always such an honor to meet a young topical Frank.
I did halfway expect that to end with him being like, and Andy, I'm your son.
I did notice when you were like, 12 years, Ashkenazi.
Oh, Rebecca! Bow tie, this is definitely it! Nicely done, Adam. Great joke. Are we responsible for picking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Wysocki.
Hello.
Hello.
And I'm really curious, have you had the same writer's room from the beginning, or what is your turnover? And then if so, where do your new peeps come from?
We don't have a ton. That is one of the great things about starting a talk show is you get to hire 12 writers at once. And so you get to pick from all over, and you get to make all these weird, diverse choices. And someone from The Onion, someone we thought was funny on Twitter, a stand-up, an improviser. I think we've really only hired 6 people in 4 years from that first round, and that's just because people have left. Like Michelle Wolf was a writer for us who has a show on Netflix now. A few other people have left to write on sitcoms out here, and then to be honest, like one of the main ways we hire is word of mouth. Because now we have 12 people on our staff from different. 12 different worlds, and oftentimes they'll tell us people that they really like. We have people who are always going out to see stand-ups in New York. We go to, sort of like new faces things at different comedy festivals, and we just try to keep our ear to the ground so that, and then one of the rare times that we have an opening, that there's someone we can find.
Great. Yes. Yeah. Who is it? I shouldn't have called on you. Hi. Yes, you in the freezer. Hi, my name is Jacob. I was wondering, with the rapid nature of the news cycle coupled with the chaos of the current administration, how do you stay sane while researching current events when it's like reading the Necronomicon?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Thanks for asking. For me, it's just...
You just focus backwards. Don't worry about today. Go back 20, 25 years.
I mean, yes.
I think that, we were off last week and we're off this week, and reading the news, for me personally, is a lot harder when we don't have a show. Like, I actually find it very cathartic to get to write closer looks and then perform in front of an audience. so it actually, like, I feel it's actually soothing and healing to follow it knowing you get to make jokes about it. Like, when we don't have a show, then I just feel like I'm muttering in the street.
Nice. You want to call on anyone? What's up?
Yeah, right over here. Thank you.
Use both. Use both mics. Use both mics. See if it paces. See if it paces.
Hi, everyone's just sharing their name, so I'm Iggy. Quick question was just, when you guys are in your writing room or with your writers and you're writing like a joke or a segment, at what point is it like clear that like that's the joke, that's funny, and like you can stop working on it?
Well, then it's actually kind of a relief to have so little time in a day, because we don't, like, if we had more time, we'd take it. And that's why, in a weird way, doing more shows a week is easier than SNL, because at SNL, you can, on a Tuesday, you can stay late. On a Wednesday, you can stay late. You can keep fine-tuning it, because you have time until Saturday. Because we don't, ultimately, we just take a couple passes at it, and then you feel like you're satisfied, and then you do it in front of an audience, and then maybe you see like 2 or 3 more holes and you try again. But ultimately, we feel like we tell enough jokes over the course of the night that we want a lot of really good ones, as opposed to, we think it's more reasonable to try to have a lot of good jokes as opposed to all perfect jokes. And sometimes you get more jokes if you don't spend the time, trying for perfect on
Forteing it.
Forteing it.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I work in animation, and The Awesomes is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, thank you so much.
So I wanted to ask if you felt like you got to tell all the stories that you wanted to tell, and if not, where do you think you would have taken it?
Yeah, we had, I think like a lot of shows would probably admit they only have the seeds of what a 4th season would have been. The Awesomes was a cartoon. My partner Mike Shoemaker and I had on Hulu. So we felt like we didn't want it to end after season 3, but we were pretty satisfied with where it ended. But we would have had more stories to tell, and we're disappointed that we didn't get to tell them. But at the same time, also very gracious that we got to make 30 episodes of a cartoon that people like you watch. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Emily. Am I allowed to ask you a question or just you?
No, go for it.
No one's been asking.
We're gonna rotate through everybody's ass so far and see if
How did you convince Joanna Newsom to marry you?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
She's a sneaky comedy fan. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can get married, so can I.
Yeah, you had your joke right. You're right. Someone further away, so it's not.
Yeah, if
people
you
in
guys
front?
want to just run back and give it to somebody in the back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Why did we say that? Now it's gonna be
Mike.
Go.
Bingo. Hi.
Hi.
Carly Forsyth. I'm 19, kind of like just starting out in my career. But my question is, when did you feel like you had traction in this business and where you wanted to go, and how did you get to that breakthrough?
For me, it was like after college. I went to college in Chicago and started improvising and taking classes. And it wasn't traction, but I was with people whose opinion I trusted and whose comedy made me laugh, and I thought that was a really good place to be. And I think that's always a nice way to check in, is look around at your peer group, and if you think they might be going places, you're in the right place. Because then you're like, oh, this is a group of talented people, and just to be in this room is the right place to be.
Yeah, I'm with that.
All right, good. Can we just drop off the mic with anyone?
We don't want the responsibility.
This is for Seth.
Yeah.
I respect how you interview without using notes. How do you prepare for that, and how long does it take?
Oh, thanks for noticing that. We have segment producers, and they are the ones who help build the framework for what an interview would be, and talk to the guest ahead of time if the guest wants to. And then, so every day we have a meeting where they tell me the 4 or 5 areas that they think will be interesting. And then even right before the interview, they give me a note card that has that stuff on it, and I just try to take one last look at it to get it in my head. But then I always found like if I have notes out, then I feel like I have to adhere to that, and it's better for me just to in my head have a few areas and then be able to listen. And if they go somewhere more interesting than what I had planned, try to follow it that way as well.
I will say when our friends all heard Seth was going to do a talk show, everyone went, oh, he's going to be so good at interviews. Because he's the guy that you can take to literally any function and will like charm everyone. Like he's like the perfect friend to meet people's parents. Like everyone was like, that's Seth Meyers. I was really interested in what I was talking about. And he is.
Yeah. Whereas when my dad met Andy, he was like, is he okay?
Well, apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Does he think Whitewater just happened? It did?
Hi. For someone just starting out in comedy, do you think it's worth it to attend like comedy schools like UCB or Second City, or are there better avenues?
I think UCB is, for what I said earlier, I mean, it's I get that those things cost money, and at a time where you might not have a lot of disposable income to spend on comedy classes, but I really do think it's impossible to do this stuff in a vacuum, and you just want to be in a room where you're going to hear what your peer group thinks is funny, and they're going to then listen to what you think is funny, and you're going to give you feedback and elevate you, and so I do think it's really worth it to do that stuff.
I would agree, and I would just say further that I think, especially with things like YouTube now and digital video, and there's so many places to do improv or sketch or stand-up, I think you can decide earlier the specific thing you want to do and really go after it. So like if you want to be a sitcom writer, just start pounding out sitcom scripts.
Yeah.
Like read a ton of sitcom scripts and then write 20 and then throw them all away because you probably got through like your bad tendencies. You know, me and my buddies made so many videos before we got to SNL, and then it just happened to be that Parnell did raps on Update, and we were like, we also do stupid raps. But it didn't come out of nowhere. We had been doing that shit over and over and over and over.
And I think, especially for writers, I always say, when people ask, like, how to be a writer, the worst thing that could happen is if you say to someone, I'm a writer, or I want to be a writer, and they'll be like, oh, show me something you've written. And you're like, oh, I'll go home and do it tonight. You're like, oh, you're not a writer. Like, like that's why you do it. Like, even just so you can go, here's my junky one I did. People will just take you seriously if you've tried.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, like, do the thing you want to do. I can't stress that enough. You can go straight at it now. The lanes are so much more clear than they've ever been before. It used to be everyone wanted to do stand-up so they could get a job working on a sitcom. And that is not the case anymore.
Right. Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for having this. Question for each of you. Andy, have you ever talked to Mark Wahlberg about Mark Wahlberg Talks to Animals?
He came on the show shortly after I did it the first time and did it with me. So you could call that talking about it.
And then, Seth, what are your top 3 fruits?
Wait, what?
Top 3 fruits.
Top 3 fruits?
Don't fall for it.
I didn't. No, yeah, I just didn't. You know what? Now I have a 2-year-old, and so it's basically just Nana.
Banana.
Yeah. Strawberry. Blueberry. Hey, real quick, is there a 12-year-old Nolan here? No? Oh,
Yeah.
are you here?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nolan is here. Oh, here we go. Hey, Nolan, how you doing? This is my friend's son Nolan. He's 12. We heard he's a big fan of us and he loves curse words, so we're just gonna throw some curse words back to Nolan.
What the fuck is that, Nolan? What's up, dude? You crazy motherfucker, Nolan! Fuck yeah, Nolan! Take a shit, baby! Take a shit, Nolan! Fucking roll! Onward! This is the guild!
Thank you, Nolan.
God's work, Seth.
God's work. What is, I think this is probably our last one over here.
Okay.
Not to bring the house down, but 500 plus days into the reign of Trump, are you and your staff getting tired? And how do we project for 2 more years, God forbid, and beyond?
You know, if it was, I know this is a strange thing to say because it does, even though it feels like the same thing every day, to Trump's credit, it's uniquely different every day. It's like fucking snowflake news. Not like the way he would say snowflake, but like every day you go like, oh, let me guess what today is, and it's like, oh, guess. Tell me what you think it is. He found out the Eagles weren't going to come, so he canceled on the Eagles, and he's going to have a marching band, and he's not going to know the words to the song. So like everybody's like, oh my God, let me guess, you're going to make fun of Trump tonight. It's like, no, I'm going to make fun of the fact that this happened. Like this is a thing that is different than every day, and you know, I think the way. I don't know, it feels to me like to capitulate is to go, I'm tired of talking about this. Because this is it matters so much. And it is, you know, crazy and unconventional, and more often than not, it's fun to talk about how stupid it all is.
I couldn't agree more, as a viewer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to write any of it.
Yeah. I think, is that our time?
Yeah.
Is that our time? That's our time. Hey, everybody, I apologize. I've been racing to the airport to a red eye, so I apologize I'm running out. But thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. That was super fun.
Thank you so much.